Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to Testa and Neal Keep It Real right here on WWSU 106.9 FM and our YouTube channel. Well, however you're tuning and hanging out with us, we do appreciate it. I'm Shea Neal, alongside with me, Parker Testa. Parker, we say this at least once a week, but if only the people could hear what we talked about before the show. All I'm saying is Saturday night could end up being legendary.
It could. I'm excited. The amount of laughs and fun that is about to occur is going to be second to none.
Eye rolls, yeah, there'll be a lot. People regretting making me a thing. I'm sure my parents have had moments where they regret making me a thing, but we'll see. A lot of show for you today. We're really excited. We're going to start off. It's NBA free agency day, Parker, and a lot of moves. Lonzo Ball has a new home. Devontae Graham has a new home. Chris Paul signed a new contract. Kyle Lowry signed a new contract. We have a ton to get into, and it's just getting started. And then we're going to call this Tier List Tuesday. We have two tier lists coming at you today. We're going to stick with the NBA theme in hour number one and do NBA starting centers. And then in hour number two, Parker, this is the position I played when I played in my favorite sport, MLB starting pitchers. I am freaking hyped.
I'm excited. All basketball hour one, all baseball hour two. It's going to be a fun show today. Lots of free agency, stuff happened both yesterday and here today. So we're going to have a lot of fun, and I'm excited.
I am too. Something that I do want to make sure that we say before I forget, there will be no show on Friday. We have Take Flight, which is our leadership seminar that we go to this weekend, which I'm very excited for. But you will be traveling to Dayton early on Friday, and I will be going to the Reds game on Thursday night. So we just didn't really have a time to record on Thursday night for Friday's show. So what we're going to do is just do Monday through Thursday this week. And we normally do college football on Friday. We'll just do that on Thursday. We don't know if it's going to be the Big Ten or the SEC yet, but that'll be on Thursday instead of Friday. So we appreciate your understanding and your patience. But we'll knock out the college football on Thursday, and then next week will be fun. We'll have our last conference preview for college football. I'm sure we'll have plenty of baseball to talk about. We'll probably have a couple tier lists. And then what I'm really looking forward to, I actually talked about this with our coworker, Scotty Kramer, today, a mock fantasy football draft. It might take the full 2 hours, but it's going to be an absolute blast. And if anybody who listens to this show wants to get involved, send us an email at wwsu1069.org. Find either myself or Parker. Send us an email with how we can invite you, and we'd love to have you take part in the draft as well.
Yeah. The more the merrier. So football season's coming up. Lots of stories, lots of players to follow. Who's going to be a sleeper, who's going to be the best available, who's going to be maybe somebody you don't think of who's going to be really good. So the more the merrier. We'd love to have you on.
Let's get started today, Parker. It was NBA free agency day. A lot of guys with new homes, and it started right off the bat at 6 o'clock tonight with Lonzo Ball going to Chicago. So Lonzo Ball signs a 4-year, $85 million contract. He's 23 years old. There have been mutual interest between him and the Bulls for a while. He averaged 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists last year with the Pelicans. He hasn't always lived up to the hype as the number 2 pick, but he's a solid defensive point guard, and he has great court vision. He should be a big upgrade to the Bulls. I think this is a good move for Chicago, honestly. I think Kobe White, we saw Kobe White. He's not really ready to be a starter yet in the NBA. So I think they make a good move here. They have pieces like Nikola Vucevic and obviously Zach LaVine. Lonzo Ball is going to be a great fit because he's going to run this offense and allow guys like LaVine and Vucevic to really take that next step forward as stars. So I like this move a lot.
I do too. The Bulls needed help, especially in their in their backcourt, and this helps them right here. Lonzo hasn't had the most consistent of careers to this point, but he's certainly going to give the Bulls help. And he was decent in New Orleans, the past couple of years. So he's going to go to Chicago and give them all the help he can.
He is. A little bit later today, a re-signing as the Mavericks bring back Tim Hardaway Jr. on a 4-year deal worth $72 million. He averaged almost 17 points a game last year. He's a key role player to Luka Doncic, and bringing back Hardaway ended up being a priority for Dallas, even as they look for a number 2 star. So this is one of their big impact players, and now he's locked in for the next 4 years in Dallas. And I think this was something the Mavericks had to do. He's not a star player. He's not an all-star by any means, but this is a guy that's going to put up 15, 20 points a night, consistent shooter, and a big help to Luka Doncic. So great job by Dallas to bring back Hardaway.
Yeah, and the Mavs, they have Luka, as well as a few other guys there, and Hardaway was one of their key guys, and he's arguably one of their better shooters. He's a very consistent shooter, and consistent shooting is very valuable. So the Mavs lock up Hardaway here, and they needed to, because they needed more consistency from the field in shooting. I apologize for that, but the Mavs needed more consistent shooting, and Hardaway is one of the more consistent guys in the league, so they lock him up.
Another re-signing is as Mike Conley stays with the Utah Jazz on a 3-year deal worth $68 million. He averaged 16 points and 6 assists last year with the Jazz. He's already going to be entering his 15th season, which is crazy how young he was coming into the NBA at just 18 years old. But Conley, he's not, in his prime anymore, but he's still one of the better defensive point guards in the NBA. He can still score at about 15 points a game, and he's a solid starter in the NBA still. And so I think this was a good fit for the Jazz to pair him with guys like Donovan Mitchell, Joe Ingles, Rudy Gobert. He was a key piece of that Utah team that was the 1 seed last season in the West, and I think this was a big thing that the Jazz had to do, was get back Conley, and they do that.
Yeah, they do, and like you said, big key guy that they needed to bring back here, and they do. So, Conley's been pretty consistent for the Jazz. Even at 33, he's still one of the league's premier point guards. So, they get him back, 3 years, $68 million, like you said. And then he's set to be a free agent at 36, 3 years from now, kind of like what a guy we'll get to later, and Chris Paul was, this season. So, Conley's, one of the, one of two, pretty solid guys in Utah, with Donovan Mitchell. So they needed to bring him back, and they do that, like you said.
They do. Our first max contract of the day went to Jimmy Butler as he signs a 4-year, $184 million extension with the Miami Heat. Butler averaged 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists this season with the Heat as he continues to round out his game. He led the Heat to the NBA Finals back in the COVID season in 2020, but he proved himself again to be one of the stars of the NBA. He gets the max deal, getting $46 million per year, and officially cementing himself as the face of the Miami Heat. So, this was one of those things that I think it was pretty obvious for both sides. Jimmy has had a ton of success in Miami. It's a good fit for him. And Miami's had a ton of success with Jimmy Butler. This was just a match made in heaven. And I'm glad that we get to see 4 more years of Jimmy Butler in Miami.
Yeah, I am too. It's been a mystery where Jimmy Butler is going to stay the last couple of years. He was in Minnesota, he was in Philadelphia, but he finds a home here in Miami, and he's been pretty good in Miami as well. They went to the finals last season, so they needed to lock up Butler, and they do that. And Jimmy has found a home here.
Couple other signings today. We'll talk about 2 in a row here just because they're a little bit smaller. Nuggets re-signed Will Barton to a 2-year deal. Barton's had a few injury issues over the last couple years, but he averaged 13 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. He's a good piece off the bench, and at $16 million a year, it was a good sign for the Nuggets, in my opinion. And then the Pistons go and get Kelly Olynyk with a 3-year, $37 million deal. Olynyk had a big stretch run in Houston last year, averaging 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists for a really bad Rockets team down the stretch. He will try to bring some experience to the Detroit front court. Like I said, we'll get to Mason Plumlee in a little bit on our tier list, but he's basically going to slide in and start at center for the Pistons after Plumlee left when he was traded to Charlotte. So Olynyk goes to Detroit and Barton stays with Denver. What are your thoughts on those two?
Both these I like. Barton's one of the better 3-point shooters in the league, and he's a great number 2 on the Nuggets and throughout the NBA. So I like the Barton re-signing, and I like Olynyk to Detroit. He's been a pretty consistent guy throughout his entire career. He averaged 19 points last season, to go along with almost 9 rebounds in Houston. So Detroit gets a good guy in Olynyk.
Couple more moves I want to talk about here today. A big deal went out in Cleveland today. They re-signed Jarrett Allen to a 5-year, $100 million contract. Allen's still just 23 years old. He was acquired by the Cavs as part of that James Harden trade back in January. and he averaged 13 points, 10 rebounds, and almost 2 blocks a game. So even after taking Evan Mobley 3rd overall in the draft, it looks like the Cavs are going to do Mobley at the 4 and Jarrett Allen at the 5, because obviously Jarrett Allen got a huge payday. But I'll tell you what, Parker, this Cavs starting lineup is sneaky good heading into next year. You now have Garland at point guard, who had a huge sophomore season last year. Looked like he was comfortable finally in an NBA offense. Garland at the point, Sexton at the 2, Isaac Okoro at the 3, who's a great defender, still learning how to score in the NBA, but he was the 5th overall pick a year ago. And then you have Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen. It's a sneaky good starting 5, and they're all very, very young.
It is. And Allen, got paid today. 5 years, $100 million, contract extension by the Cavs. And he was part of the James Harden deal, that sent Harden to Brooklyn, and the Cavs get Jarrett Allen. So he's, one of the better, bigs in this league, and the Cavs lock him up here.
A couple more re-signings. We have a couple moves that we'll talk about to end it, but some re-signings. The Nets keep Blake Griffin. The Knicks keep Derrick Rose. The Bucks keep Bobby Portis. The Pacers keep TJ McConnell, and the Suns keep Chris Paul. Any of those super surprising to you? I think these were mostly guys that we kind of knew would stay.
Yeah, we would. The Suns and Chris Paul was more surprising to me than anything. There was a lot of rumors surrounding him and pairing him, or him linked to the Lakers. There are lots of rumors of that, but I thought the Suns should have re-signed him, and they do that here. They give him a 4-year, $120 million contract that'll expire when he's 40 years old. So hopefully we'll see the Suns get back to the finals, and hopefully we see Chris Paul get the ring he's been chasing for now 17 years.
Absolutely. There's 4 more moves I want to talk about today before we get into tier list number 1. The first thing I want to talk about, the Lakers bring back Dwight Howard. It's a 3rd stint in LA for Dwight Howard, who nearly re-signed with the team last year, but ended up going to the Sixers. He did a great job in Philly as the backup to Embiid, averaging 7 points and 9 rebounds a game. He won an NBA championship with the Lakers, and he will return to a key role in their front court heading into this season. I love this fit. I mean, I know Dwight Howard's not the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year he was a decade ago, but, he's still a really solid big, even if it's just in, a role player role. And I like this fit a lot for the LA Lakers. They needed a body that can protect the paint, score inside, and, even stretch the floor. Dwight Howard's been working on his jump shot. So I think this was a great fit for the Lakers. It's a guy that's been to championship games, and it's a guy that knows this offense very well. I think Dwight Howard's going to be a perfect fit in LA. I
do too. And Howard is, in his, as he heads into his 18th season here in the NBA, he's had some stints to where he's been, rough to say the least. But, he comes back to LA here where I think he's had the most success out of any city he's been to. So I like this signing for the Lakers.
Devontae Graham heading to New Orleans on a 4-year, $47 million contract. Graham's 26 years old. He averaged 18 points and 8 assists in his first full season in the NBA. Last year averaged about 15 points and 5 assists. But the Pelicans have been searching for a guard after losing Lonzo to Chicago, and now Graham becomes the piece that they pair with Zion. And I think this is a good fit. I like Devontae Graham a lot. Yeah, he could still learn how to, he could improve his defense. He's not the same playmaker that Lonzo Ball is, but this guy's an absolutely gifted scorer, and I think he's going to be a huge boost offensively to this Pelicans offense, and he's going to help out Zion a lot.
I think so too. I like this a lot for New Orleans. This was one of the many sign and trades we saw today. The Pelicans send a 1st-round pick to Charlotte. And Graham signs a 4-year, $47 million deal with New Orleans. So, like you said, he's going to pair with Zion. I like the way Devontae Graham plays. He's a solid guard in this league. So he's going to get to pair with Zion after New Orleans loses Lonzo. So I like this a lot for New Orleans.
I do too. The Heat signed PJ Tucker to a 2-year contract today worth $15 million. Tucker's 36 years old. He averaged 4 points a game and 4 rebounds this past year, but his impact rarely shows up on the stat sheet. He's a gritty, high-energy defensive star, and he will look to solidify Miami's bench and add playoff experience to the Heat. I love this move. PJ Tucker, I'll tell you, Parker, PJ Tucker is one of my favorite unsung heroes in the NBA because no matter wherever this dude goes in the NBA, whatever team he's on, we saw it with the Rockets, we saw it with the Bucks, we saw it with the the Suns, we saw it with basically any team this dude is on, they win. They find ways to win, and they play really sound fundamental basketball. And I love this fit because he pairs with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, two of the top defenders in the NBA. So if this Heat team gets to the playoffs, they could be one of the best defensive teams in the league. And PJ Tucker is such a good fit for that bench.
He is. And, he got the ring he's been looking for since he entered the league, in his 16th season in the, I think it was his 16th season in the NBA. He's 36 years old. Gets the ring he's been chasing for his entire career. And he goes to help out Jimmy Butler in Miami. So I like this move a lot for the Heat.
Me too. The final move we're going to talk about today, the Bulls sign Alex Caruso. Caruso signs a 4-year, $37 million deal with the Chicago Bulls. Chicago, Caruso's worshipped in LA. 27-year-old, one of the greatest stories in the NBA. He's an important role player, though, in his 4 years with the Lakers. He averaged 6 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists in about 20 minutes a night. He's a really good defender, and he's bringing his talents to a Bulls team that could definitely use some defense. And he's joining a backcourt that already added Lonzo Ball. So, it's a Lakers reunion in Chicago. Lonzo and Caruso. Now, is $9-10 million a year a little bit too much for Alex Caruso? Maybe. But I like what he brings on the court defensively. He's got great athleticism, and he's still only 27 years old. So I think the two moves that the Bulls made today, getting Lonzo and getting Caruso, definitely made them a better basketball team.
Yeah, I think it did too. The Bulls have had a rough go of it, to say the least, over the last 5 or so years since they lost Derrick Rose. But I like the way Caruso plays. Like you said, he's the golden child of Los Angeles Lakers basketball. He's beloved by everyone who follows the Lakers. So this move for the Bulls is going to give them a pretty consistent guard in Caruso. He's a great shooter. So he'll pair with Lonzo in Chicago, and maybe we'll see the Bulls bring in some more guys, just like that to kind of rebuild this team.
Absolutely. Well, since we're on the topic of NBA basketball, I figured for Tier List Tuesday, let's start off with an NBA tier list, and we're going to be doing NBA starting centers, Parker. So I'll open up our tier list here. I'm going to start it off. I have 2 centers that I'm going to put in S tier, and I will put them in S tier to get us started. And I think they're the only 2 that deserve to be there right now. I'm going to go with Joel Embiid, who I think is the most dominant center in the NBA. I think he is the best scorer. He's the most likely to take over a game. He's probably, maybe the best. I don't want to say best all around because I think that's the guy who I'm about to put in here. But I think he's the most dominant center in the NBA. And the other guy, I'm only putting 2 guys in S tier. Joel Embiid and the reigning MVP, Nikola Jokic. I think these 2 are in a league of their own. Jokic, the reigning MVP, a triple-double machine. With Embiid's dominance and Jokic's ability to take over a basketball game, I think, like I said, these 2 are in a league of their own, and that's why they're going to be the only 2 I put in Superstar.
I'm with you. I think Embiid is one of the more aggressive centers in basketball. He's of course, all centers are huge because they're NBA centers and they're all 7 feet tall. But Embiid is one of the more consistently great, consistently dominant players that we see in the NBA now. And Jokic is, the reigning MVP for a reason. He's, like you said, I think the best all-around center in basketball. He can score inside. He's a dominant rebounder, and he can shoot the ball very well outside of the post. So both these guys are superstars for me as well.
Cool. Let's move on to A tier. 2 guys I'm going to put in A tier right off the bat for different reasons. One is because I'm very impressed with him. And one is because I expect a little bit more. So the one I expect a little bit more is Karl Anthony Towns. I think Karl Anthony Towns definitely has the skill set to be a superstar, Parker. He's one of the best scorers, bigs in the NBA. He's a very talented player, very athletic, a strong defender as well. But he's never played for a winning team, and he's never, I felt like, made the same impact that Embiid and Jokic have made. So he's an all-star for me. He's still a top 5 center in this league. But I expect a little bit more out of Karl Anthony Towns. And then the other guy I'm going to put in A tier or all-star right off the bat is DeAndre Ayton. And now if you asked me a few weeks ago where I'd put Ayton, probably good. But what he did in the playoffs, he grew up, and he's now one of the best defensive centers in the NBA. He can spread the floor. He is an outstanding shot blocker, and he can crash the rim and dominate the interior against really almost any team in the league. So DeAndre Ayton, still only 22 years old. These playoffs, it bumped him up to All-Star for me. This guy grew up.
Yeah, he did, and he was really good in these playoffs, and Booker and Paul had their moments. They were the Batman and Robin of the playoffs, I think, for the Suns. But Ayton was right there as well. He's obviously a part of the big three in Phoenix, and he's going to be one of the next. He's the next Embiid. He's the next Jokic. He's the next top NBA center. So he was really good in these playoffs. He honestly deserves to be in this spot.
Another guy that I want to put in this A tier before I forget is Bam Adebayo. Bam Adebayo still has room to grow, in my opinion, offensively. He averages about 15 points a game. He's working on a mid-range jumper. It's better than what it was, but he's still not an offensive center in the NBA. But what he brings to the table defensively, shot blocking ability, rebounding, post-interior defense, and just how dang athletic he is, Parker. I mean, I think he's definitely an all-star caliber center, and he's still very, very young with room to grow. So I have very, very similar opinions on Adebayo and Ayton. I think they're the future of the NBA at the center position.
I do too. And Adebayo is, one of the he's awesome. Watching him play, he's very aggressive. He's very consistently great with the Heat, and he's one of the league's rising stars if he isn't already a star. So I love watching Adebayo play, and he's an all-star for me also.
Now I'm going to move into the good tier. I don't think off the top of my head I have anybody else that I put in all-star, at least at this moment. That could change. No, I lied. There's one more I'll put in all-star, and it's Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert, one of the best defensive players in the NBA. He's one of the few centers that can defend guards and not get eaten alive. And he's a great rebounder. He's a decent scorer, but his value to the Jazz is undeniable. I don't think he's a superstar center. I don't think he's on the same caliber as Embiid or Jokic, but he's definitely a very valuable center in the NBA, and I think he belongs in all-star tier as well.
Sorry, I'm texting our music director, Bella, talking about Take Flight this weekend, and I told her that how this works is we have teams, and me and Shea are ironically on the same team, and I told her we are going to dominate the weekend, so just be ready. But back to Gobert, I'm in the same boat as you. I think Gobert's, I think he's quite honestly the best defensive big in the NBA.
It's a very good argument. I think if I had to think of the two best defensive bigs in the NBA, it's Gobert and Ben Simmons. And it's hard to compare them because they're just so different. But, I mean, they were the finalists for Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. Gobert is the best defensive center, and Ben Simmons is the best defensive wing in the NBA.
Right. And I think, Gobert, he's, won Defensive Player of the Year like the last 3 years or something like that. So he deserves to be, in this tier because – he's quite possibly, if not the best defensive big in the NBA, he's also quite possibly the best defender, period, in the NBA. He's that good. So he deserves to be in this spot as well.
No doubt about it. I'm going to start off good tier with 3 different guys. And it's going to be guys that I think I'm going to put in here for different reasons. One is kind of in the prime of his career, give or take, and I think he belongs in good. One is on the rise, and I think he belongs in good, and one is kind of fading, and I think he belongs in good now. So the one that's fading, Kristaps Porzingis. I need to see Kristaps have a big year this year. He was not very good last year, especially in the playoffs. Injuries have caught up to him, I feel like, but Kristaps Porzingis I still think is an all-star caliber center, but as of right now, I have to put him in good. Now, the one that's trending up, Christian Wood with the Houston Rockets. This kid is unreal. He can score about 20 points a night before he broke his foot. He was averaging like 20 points a night. He's a double-double machine, great shot blocker. He's still only like 24 years old. He just signed a big contract with the Rockets. He's going to be a big part of that team moving forward, along with Jalen Green and, now bringing in a couple other pieces today during free agency. So I love Christian Wood. I think he's on the rise. And then a guy that I think's really been in the good tier his whole career for the most part is Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond, solid, not spectacular. He's a guy that if you have him at starting center, you're not going to complain, but there's definitely upgrades.
Right. And, I think Kristaps is in, I have a very similar mindset. He needs to have a bounce back year. Like you said, he wasn't that good last year. Wood is certainly fantastic. And, all three of these guys are really good players. And I like the way all three of these guys play. I'm a big Kristaps fan. I liked him in New York. He just needs to be better in Dallas for me.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Another guy I'm going to put in B tier. I was starting to think, Parker, that this guy was maybe a little bit past his prime and kind of fading out of the league. But he had one heck of a postseason in Atlanta, and that's Clint Capella. Clint Capella still proved he's a great rim protector, great defender, and probably the best rebounder in the NBA. It's either him or Steven Adams. So for me, Clint Capella has earned the right to be put back in good. He had a really good postseason.
He did, and he was really good in Atlanta, and he played very well. Him and John Collins were a great pair, as to go along with Trae Young. Another guy that I'm putting in good tier, Brook Lopez, and he was really good with the Bucks in these playoffs, and he was one of the big keys in why they won this championship.
I'm with you. I think the way that Brook Lopez saved his career by learning how to shoot threes. Brook Lopez was not very good in Los Angeles when he went to the Lakers. And when he went to the Bucks, they had him learn how to space the floor, shoot threes, and now Giannis can attack and kick it to guys like Lopez and Forbes and DiVincenzo, and it's really opened up this Bucks offense. So Brook Lopez, a couple years ago, before he learned how to shoot threes, he'd probably be an average, maybe even below average, but him learning how to shoot and spread the floor has not only saved his career, it's made him a really lethal weapon.
Yeah, it has. And I love the way Lopez plays, and he, really has brought his shot along. Another guy, for me, I'm going back and forth on this.
Mm-hmm.
Miles Turner.
Okay.
And I'm going to put him in average.
Okay.
Because I think he's really good at some things, but not good at other things. What he's really good at, shot blocking. Almost, leads the league almost in every year in shot blocking. He just can't shoot the ball.
Yeah.
And, he needs to develop his shot more, if he wants to be considered a higher, ranked player on this list. I like Miles Turner. I like the way he plays, but he just needs to be better for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Miles Turner, like you said, one of the best defensive centers in the NBA, great rebounder, great shot blocker, just does not bring that offensive threat to the floor in the way that he should. And he's going to have to elevate his game because Sabonis can't do it all by himself. So another guy that I'm going to throw right next to him in average is a guy that I think plays very similarly, and that's Mitchell Robinson. Very similar players, great shot blockers, great rebounders, super athletic, great defenders, but guys that struggle to score the ball. And I think they're very similar in that regard.
They are, very similar players here. And, another guy that, I can't believe that we completely missed him that I'm going to put in good tier is Jonas Valanciunas.
Absolutely.
He is, really good. He was great in Memphis, and I think he's going to be great in New Orleans.
Absolutely, yeah. Valanciunas is very, very underrated, I feel like, every single year. And the fact that, he's not the biggest name you could have as your starting center, so I don't think enough people appreciate what he does on the court every single night. This guy's a double-double machine. He'll put up 15 points, 12 rebounds almost every night. Great shot blocker as well. I'm just really, I like watching this guy play. He doesn't do anything super flashy. He doesn't do anything, best in the league, but he does everything really well.
He does, and he, is one up there with Jokic as one of the better all-around centers in this league. He plays really well. He's just a mammoth of a human being. I think he's one of the bigger players in the NBA. So yeah, I really like the way he plays.
I do too. This one's tough for me, Parker. And this next one's going to be for me, LaMarcus Aldridge. LaMarcus Aldridge had a tough year in San Antonio this past year. He's not, 3-4 years ago, Parker, I'd be putting LaMarcus Aldridge an all-star. No doubt about it. But right now, I'm going to still, because he's almost the opposite of these two guys, Parker, in the fact that he still brings offense to the table, but he's a liability defensively now. I'm going to put him at the end of good. He just barely hangs on because I still think he has enough offensive game to bring, enough to the table where I consider him a good center in the NBA. But LaMarcus Aldridge needs to have a bounce back season because he did not have a good year a year ago, and I'd take almost every guy in this good tier over LA right now.
Yeah, I would too. And he's certainly on the back half of his career. I think he's he's an older guy for sure. He was if this was Portland LaMarcus Aldridge, I think he's at the top of all-star, maybe even a superstar. But he certainly had a rough year last year, but he's still very consistent offensively. Just struggles on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, he does, and a part of that comes with age. And by the way, now you were texting our music director. Now I'm emailing one of our interested students going through the training course because they just said, they finished one of the modules and they don't know really how to submit it because the only options are print and download. I think that we just see when they complete it, but I got to double check that. So I don't know. Little secret of WWSU, I never got formally trained. I just told the GM that I knew what I was doing and he believed me. So anyone who's going through our training program or learning how to be part of this station, I know I'm the GM and I know I'm supposed to know this stuff, but I can't help you. I didn't do it.
I'm just the sports guy, so
right.
So I am lost.
Look, man, I just watch Netflix and get paid for it.
Yeah, I'm just the sports guy. If it's a broadcast or running the radio, the soundboard, come to me. I can help you with some things, but other than that, it's way over my head.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So we still have about 25 minutes or so here in hour number one. Parker, if we end up getting this tier list done fast enough, we might start the starting pitching one because there's a lot of guys on that one, and it might take us the full hour. So we'll see. But next guy I want to talk about is a guy that's on the back half of his career as well, DeAndre Jordan. Because of his name and what he's been able to accomplish in his career, Parker, I'm tempted to put him in average. But if you watched him play last year in Brooklyn, he really played below average, and that's where I'm going to put him. He's just not the same guy he was 4 or 5 years ago.
No, he's not. And I like the way Jordan plays. He's a very consistent. He was a very consistent guy leading up to this season, and he's still a great defensive big. And don't get me wrong, but he certainly had he's on the downslope of his career, and similar to Aldridge, age is a factor. He's not the starting caliber DeAndre Jordan he was 3-4 years ago anymore, but he still can give you solid minutes, solid defensive basketball. If he's in the right system, and I think Brooklyn is that right system for him. He's below average for me also, but I still think he has plenty left in the tank.
Okay. Yusuf Nurkic for me is going to be my best center in average. I'm going to put him ahead of Miles Turner and Mitchell Robinson because I think when this guy plays, Parker, he's actually good. The problem is he gets hurt every single season, and I can't put him in good faith with guys like Drummond, Capella, Lopez, Wood, because he just doesn't play enough for me to consider him on that tier. So when Nurkic is on the floor, I think he's in this good tier, but he's got to be more consistent in how many games he plays a season. For now, he's at the top of average.
Yeah, he is. Nurkic is a great player. I think he can be a little bit more, consistent with his offensive game, but he's certainly not, among the league's worst. He can get the job done for you, and in a place like Portland, he's a great fit.
He is, no doubt about it. This next guy I want to talk about is going to be. Let's do Nikola Vucevic with the Chicago Bulls now, formerly the Orlando Magic. I'm going to put him in good. I'm going to put him. I mean, we don't really have these in order because I don't think Kristaps. I'd put guys like I'd put Wood over Kristaps probably, but I'm going to put him ahead of guys like Valanciunas and Aldridge because I think his offensive game is really strong. He averages like 18, 19 points a game. He's a strong rebounder. The issue is he's not the best defender in the world. And, they tried to kind of, start to fix that today by signing guys like Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso and, some of these guys to help out on the defensive side of the ball. One of the better offensive centers in the league. But he's only in good because he's just not a great defender. If he could be a league average defender, he might be an all-star.
Yeah, he might be. And I like the way Vucevic plays. He's, like you said, a strong rebounder, can provide solid offensive minutes for you. But, he's a defensive liability. And he's a great, defender inside the post. But if you have him, one-on-one with somebody out in the perimeter, he's going to get toasted. So, I think he can work on, footwork and being more of a inside, the post defender, which he's strong at. Play to your strengths, and I think that's what Vucevic needs to do in Chicago. So, I think he's a strong player. I'd probably put him in a similar spot.
Okay. Yeah. If you're just now joining us here on WWSU or on YouTube, we appreciate you hanging out with us to keep it real with Testa and Neal. I'm Shea Neal, Parker Testa alongside with me. It's Tier List Tuesday today on the show. So we're doing NBA centers right now. We'll be finishing that up here in hour number 1. And in hour number 2, I'm really hyped for this one. MLB starting pitchers. Obviously, I think most people agree that Jacob deGrom, if we don't put Jacob deGrom in S tier, Parker, we're not allowed to talk baseball on this show ever again. But guys like, one of my favorite pitchers in baseball, Luis Castillo. Is he an A tier pitcher? Is he a B tier pitcher because he's a little inconsistent? I don't know. It's going to be tough because you have guys that have been doing it for a long time, like Scherzer, DeGrom, Kershaw, guys like that. But you also have these guys that, have been really dominant for like 1 or 2 years, like Kevin Gausman, like Sonny Gray, like Brandon Woodruff. Where do you put guys like that now? And it's going to be tough because there's a lot of guys that have been, flash in the pans, quote unquote. But I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of really good pitchers in the majors.
Yeah, there are. And, if we don't put DeGrom in S tier, we should be canceled.
I will literally retire from sports media if I don't put Jacob deGrom in S tier, and you can hold me to that.
Right. And if you think we're not putting DeGrom in S tier, we have failed you as an audience miserably. Right. And we will cancel this show tomorrow at 3:00, if that's what it takes. So, obviously DeGrom is S tier, and I'm excited to do this next tier list. But this, so far this has been fun. NBA free agency is in full swing, and lots going on, in baseball as well.
Yeah, we have about as much chance of putting Jacob deGrom in a tier other than S as the Pittsburgh Pirates do of winning the NL Central. That tells you, about as likely as it's going. We're putting Jacob deGrom in S tier, not just putting him in S tier. He's going to be at the top of S tier. Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher on the planet, and I'll tell you that right now so that you're not surprised when I put him at the top of S tier.
We have a more likely chance to put Jacob deGrom in S tier than the Atlanta Falcons do to blow a Super Bowl. Atlanta sports fans, if you're listening, I apologize.
Exactly. Yeah, and what Atlanta sports fans would want to listen to us?
They wouldn't. What Dayton, Ohio sports fans would want to listen to us?
Our moms, barely.
My mom doesn't listen to
my mom doesn't listen to me either. So not even our moms. Maybe the people that work across the hall. I don't know. They probably tune us out too.
The people walking by the station that have to hear it.
They don't have to hear it. They can put headphones in. No, but really excited for hour number 2, but we still have a couple centers to get into here today. Let's do an IU kid, Parker, Thomas Bryant. I really liked this kid coming out of college. Really athletic, strong rebounder, good defender, just could not score the basketball. And that's basically what's happened in the NBA as well. Great rebounder, great defender, still very, very young. I think he's like 22 years old. He has a lot of potential, but he just brings nothing to the table offensively. So I'm going to put him in below average. He's ahead of DeAndre Jordan for me in below average. He's very close to being average. I still like this guy a lot. I think he has a ton of potential. But as of right now, he's a below average NBA center because he can't score the basketball.
He is, and I think he can work on that. You got to work on that if you want to, continue to succeed in the NBA. And like you said, I liked the way Bryant, he played well, in college. Coming out, he was one of the best, bigger prospects in, coming out of IU. But like you said, his college, MO is kind of transferred into the NBA, and that, like you said, great defender, great rebounder, but can't score. And he needs to work on that if he wants to continue to have a great career.
Absolutely. I mean, he'll still make a nice career for himself if he's a great defender and great rebounder that can't score. But unfortunately for him, it'll be as a backup center. If he wants to keep being a starting center, he's got to figure out how to put up 10, 12 points a game.
Yeah, he's got to, because what do better centers do in this league? They put up 12, 14, 15, and 12, 14, 15 rebounds. Mm-hmm. So they need to do that. Bryant's a 12, 15 rebound guy, but he only scores like maybe 5 points a game. So he needs to, shake that up a little bit. So, if he wants to continue to have a good career. What happened?
Eduardo Escobar just hit one to the third deck in this Brewers game. I was just about to say, before that bomb was hit, I knew it was. I'm watching Brewers Pirates right now while we're recording. I knew it was a long shot for the Pirates to beat the Brewers tonight. I was hoping that they could pull it off because it would get the Reds a half game closer. But the Brewers are kicking their butt because the Pirates stink and the Brewers are a great baseball team. That's kind of what I expected. But the Pirates have put in 2 relievers in the last 2 innings that have walked the bases loaded. And then the guy in the last inning walked in a run, and then this guy just gave up an absolute moonshot to Eduardo Escobar. And I mean, one of the most disrespectful home run trots I've ever seen. He didn't flip the bat. He didn't get all cocky or anything. He just turned, looked at the pitcher, almost looked like he felt bad for the guy, and then just dropped the bat. And I'm like, oh man. And that ball landed probably out of the state of Wisconsin. So we talked about it yesterday. We talked about it, when we were going over the trade deadline and stuff. I hate that the Brewers got Eduardo Escobar because that's a great get, and he's already hit 2 home runs in 3 games. So he's looking like he's going to be a huge piece for the Brewers.
He is, and there are a lot of these, trades that have been, worked out well, in the 2 or 3 days that we've had, the opportunity to, see these guys play. And Escobar is just another example of that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So the Brewers are now up 6-0, and I think I can turn this game off in good confidence that the Pirates will not be beating the Brewers tonight. But let's get back to this list. Another IU kid, Parker, Cody Zeller, the former number 4 overall pick. He's okay. He's nothing spectacular. He's not going to cost you any games. He's not a liability, but he's not a stud. So I think I'm just going to plop him in average. I can't put him ahead of Nurkic because I think Nurkic is a more talented basketball player. And I'm going to put him behind Turner and Robinson because even though I think he's a better scorer than those 2 guys, I think Turner and Robinson have a better chance of making an impact on a game's result than Cody Zeller does. I think Cody Zeller is just kind of a body that stands in there and occasionally scores and plays decent defense. So Cody Zeller is kind of meh at everything he does, and that's why he ends up in the Mets here for me.
I think you just described my broadcasting career. Stands there in there and occasionally scores. But
I thought you were going to say, "Man," I'm like, you're not meh. You're worse than
that. But yeah, Zeller is on the back half of his career, certainly. He's had a great career though in Charlotte. He's been fairly consistent. If consistency means 4 points, 4 rebounds a game, but he's been better than I think most people thought he would be. He was great at IU, and he came out and he's had a solid career. So he's still average, but I think he's certainly on the downslope of his career for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Another guy that I really like, Parker. I'm trying to decide where I want to put him. Steven Adams. I really want to put him in good, but I just don't know if he scores enough to do it. He's probably the best rebounder in the NBA. He's a solid defender. He's a great teammate. Everyone loves playing with this dude. I'm going to put him at the top of average. He's about as good as it gets. If there was an above average tier, he'd be in there. If he could contribute 4 or 5 more points a night offensively, he'd be towards the top of good because he's that good of a defender and a rebounder. But for me, he's, like I said, above average. So right at the top of average. But if there was a tier in between these two, he'd be in that.
Yeah, and Steven Adams was pretty consistent, when he was in Oklahoma City, and I like the way he plays. He's a solid rebounder. He can score pretty consistently. Just needs to kind of work on the defensive side of the ball a little bit. I like the way he plays. I would almost put him at the bottom of good, but I you know what? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to put him at the bottom of good.
Okay, it's close for me. I don't know if I can. I think I could defend putting Steven Adams in average, but I don't know if I could defend putting him below LaMarcus Aldridge at this point. So I don't know. I think I might end up moving him to the bottom of good for sure. Next up, Al Horford. Al Horford would have been in All-Star, a couple of years ago as well. But right now, he's very similarly to DeAndre Jordan, that he's just kind of fallen off. I still think he has a better chance of contributing every night than DeAndre Jordan does. So I'm going to put him in average. But Al Horford, 5-6 years ago would have been one of the top 5 centers in the NBA. And now he's just kind of barely hanging on to a starting job.
Yeah. And, I'm a big Al Horford fan. He's a solid player. I've seen a lot of Al Horford. I've been watching a lot of Celtics basketball, over the last few years, but he's dropped off pretty swiftly here. So I still think he's a solid player. He can get the job done for you, but certainly not as great as he once was.
No, not at all. Next, let's do James Wiseman, Parker. One of the younger centers in the NBA, the number 2 overall pick last year. Wiseman has a ton of potential. He's 7 feet tall. He's got crazy length. Great wingspan, good scorer. He can shoot the ball. He can spread the floor. Great athleticism. He can, come flying in, dunking, blocking shots. This guy's got the potential to be the next DeAndre Ayton, I think, and, just fly up this list. But as of right now, he's just kind of an average. He had kind of and I'm just going to put him right in the middle of average. He had kind of an average rookie season, and I know he's capable of more. But as of right now, I have to evaluate him on what I've seen. And so far, he's been an average center.
He has, and he, I don't think it's all his fault. The Warriors had a rough year for sure.
They did.
But I just need to see more from him. And, it's a guy's rookie year. You can't get, you can't give a guy, you can't put him in a Hall of Fame, based on his rookie year, and you can't, completely shoot him down based on his rookie year. So I think, with the Warriors getting Klay Thompson back, they had a solid draft. I think Wiseman's going to have a huge sophomore season.
I agree. I think this guy's about to, take off, like you said. Wiseman's got so much talent. He was almost the number 1 overall pick. If it wasn't for, I'm spacing. Who was the number 1 overall pick last year? Why can't I think? It's obvious, Shay. It's obvious. Who was it? Anthony Edwards. Yeah, Anthony Edwards, because LaMelo went 3rd. But if it wasn't, for a long time, Wiseman was right up there with Anthony Edwards for the number 1 overall pick. We didn't really know what direct. Normally, we know who the number 1 overall pick is going to be, like this year with Cade Cunningham, like with Zion, like with Anthony Davis. But we didn't really know who was going to be the number 1 overall pick that year. Some people thought it'd be LaMelo. Some people thought it would be Anthony Edwards. Some people thought it would be Wiseman. This kid's got the talent of a number 1 overall pick, and I still love the fit in Golden State where Curry and Thompson and Green can help him spread the floor and get involved on offense. I expect a huge year from James Wiseman, and I'm talking like 15, 16 points a game, 8, 9 rebounds, and probably a couple block shots as well. I think he could really emerge as, like I said, the next up-and-coming DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, he could, and he's a talented player for sure. He's going to be one of the league's best, just like Ayton here in 2-3 years.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So we got about 10 minutes left here in hour number 1, and we've got 7 guys left to talk about. Serge Ibaka, Parker. I love Serge Ibaka. One of the best nicknames of NBA history, Ibaka. Still a great shot blocker. Still can score about 8-10 points a night. He's still a solid role player. But that's really all he is at this point in his career, is a solid role player. So he's going to go an average for me. He has a great resume, and he's still a really solid bench big. But if your starting center is 37-year-old Serge Ibaka, I mean, you can definitely upgrade at the position. So I think at this point in his career, he's still a really good player, but he's more of a backup.
Yeah, he is. And I like Ibaka, like you said. Ibaka is a great player. And he was great in Toronto. He's been good in Oklahoma City. But he's certainly one of the another guy. And just like DeAndre Jordan and Aldridge, age has gotten to him. Father time is real unless you're Tom Brady. And that's he's certainly been one of the more consistent bigs in the NBA recently, but he's just hit a bit of a slump.
Yeah, he has, and it's been an interesting development to see. Some of these guys that, I mean, like I said, with guys like Al Horford, with guys like LaMarcus Aldridge, Serge Ibaka, DeAndre Jordan, 5-6 years ago, Parker, a lot of these guys were putting an average and below average were superstars in the NBA, and it's just kind of crazy to see the new wave.
Yeah, it is, and it's crazy, but I think it's good. It sucks to see some of these guys start to phase out, but the new wave is exciting. The new wave, such as Ayton, such as Jokic, such as Wiseman, such as go down the list. Adebayo is another one who's talented. So these younger guys are certainly starting to become the new faces if they are already, and it's exciting.
It is no doubt about it. I'm really, really excited to see what happens moving forward. But I feel like NBA centers are a lot like NFL running backs, Parker, and they have a lot shorter lifespan than a lot of other positions. Where NFL running backs are usually out of the league in 5 years, maybe less. NBA centers, I feel like only make it 7-8 years before they kind of fall out of the league. Where you can see point guards and shooting guards and all them make it 15 years in the NBA, but with a center, one bad injury or you lose that vertical or you lose that ability to whatever, and you're pretty much gone. And we've seen a lot of these guys that, like DeAndre Jordan in 2013 was one of the best players in the NBA at any position, and now DeAndre Jordan in 2021 barely hanging on to a spot on an NBA roster.
Yeah, and it sucks to see that. But it's the reality of the NBA right now, and the younger guys are coming in, and pushing the older players out. But some of these younger players aren't living up to the hype, and we're seeing that more and more.
Yeah, no, we are, no doubt about it. Okay, we got a couple more to get to here before we wrap up hour number one. Let's do Aaron Baines. Aaron Baines is another guy, Parker, that he was a backup for so long to start his career, and then they kind of finally gave him a chance to start in Phoenix, and he was really, really good. And he's a solid player. He's for me, he's like a slightly worse version of Valanciunas, but I'm going to put him right in between Adams and Nurkic for me because he's on the court more than Nurkic, but really solid player, can shoot the three, good rebounder, pretty solid defender. He's not a scorer, but that's not really his game. But when, he's not a guy that's going to create his own offense, but if he's left alone, he's a guy that can knock down shots. So I'm a big fan of Aaron Baines' game. And for me, he's at the top of average. Like I said, if there was an above average tier, there's a couple guys I would have put in there, and he's probably one of them.
Yeah, I think so too. Aaron Baines is certainly a talented player. He plays hard. Excuse that horrible voice crack right there, but he's a talented player for sure. Like you said, he got the opportunity to start, and he lived up to it. So he's a talented player, and I'm excited to see what he continues to do.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Let's do Tristan Thompson. This one's really hard, Parker. Tristan Thompson might be the greatest offensive rebounder in the history of the NBA. Like, not even exaggerating. He's one of the best offensive rebounders in the history of basketball. The problem is very inconsistent scoring, and he's a very undersized center. He's honestly built more like a power forward. So I don't know. I'm probably going to put him in a similar spot that I put Baines. He's a solid player. He's a pretty decent defender. He can score. He's a great rebounder, but a lot like Cody Zeller and a lot like, some of these other guys in average, he just kind of does everything okay. He doesn't do anything super great. He does everything okay. And that's why I think Tristan Thompson finds himself in average. I think Tristan Thompson, a lot of people think Tristan Thompson's one of the worst centers in the league. I don't think that's true at all. But he's nothing spectacular. He's solid, but nothing spectacular.
No. And I think Tristan Thompson is, like you said, one of the best offensive rebounders there has been, we've seen in a long time. But he is, pretty, defensively inept. I think he's, certainly a talented scorer and a talented offensive rebound, but the defensive basketball, IQ and how he plays defensive basketball is rough, to say the least.
No doubt about it. Just a few more here to do today. We're down to 4. Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol, I think he did take a step back last year, but I still think he's about the same tier as Ibaka. So I'm going to put him ahead of Ibaka because I think he scores more. Ibaka's definitely the better defender. It's really close. They're neck and neck. But I think Gasol is in the same boat. Gasol still makes an impact scoring the basketball. He's still a solid rebounder, but he's just very, very slow running up and down the court. And he's just not a good defender anymore.
No, he's not. And I still think, Marc Gasol, deserves to be in this, average good tier area. But he is, certainly, took a step back. And I think he's, certainly has the talent to be, to get the job done for you. And he has the consistency to get that done for you. But, defensive basketball is certainly not his strong suit anymore. It was, but it's not anymore.
Wendell Carter Jr., Parker. Wendell Carter was the 6th overall pick by the Bulls. He's crazy athletic, great rebounder, great shot blocker, but he's just been so underwhelming for a top 5-6 pick, I mean, he was traded to Orlando in that Vucevic deal. He's just never done anything at a level where I feel like he was a lottery pick. And for that, maybe I'm being a little harsh on him, but I don't think he's much. I mean, I think he's on the same level as Thomas Bryant at this point. I'm going to put him in below average.
Yeah, I think I'm going to put him in a similar spot. He hasn't been the guy that we thought he would. He still has the opportunity to change that. Don't get me wrong, but I think we were expecting more from him.
No doubt about it. Richaun Holmes is very similar to what Serge Ibaka was when I talked about him. Richaun Holmes is a solid player. He can shoot. He's a good rim protector. He's a good rebounder. But there is no world where your team's starting center should be Richaun Holmes. Richaun Holmes should be a backup forward on an NBA roster. He should not be a starting center in the NBA.
No, he shouldn't. And I like the way Holmes plays, but he's not a starting caliber player, like you said. He needs to work on, scoring, and it can give your team an offensive liability if you have a guy out there who can't score.
Yeah. And the final player we're going to do on this first tier list today, Mason Plumlee. Mason Plumlee is a guy that I've seen flashes of being just absolutely brilliant. He can score. He's had moments where he can score. He's had moments where he looks like one of the best defensive centers in the NBA. But those moments are few and far between. And most of the time when I see Mason Plumlee play basketball, I see what I see with Richaun Holmes, a guy that should be a backup center in the NBA. So he's going to go in below average for me as well. He's had moments where I really think he's turning a corner and improving. But like I said, those moments are not as frequent as they need to be for me to put him higher than below average.
Yeah, no kidding. And Plumlee is, I think he still certainly has talent, but he's just not the player he was.
Yeah, he isn't. Yeah. All right, well, that's tier list number 1 today on Tier List Tuesday. We still got to get into MLB starting pitchers, and that one is going to be absolutely fun. This one was fun, but that one's going to be a blast. So we're going to take a really quick 2-minute break. We'll be right back after this, and we're going to jump right into another tier list. So hope you're having fun. We appreciate you hanging out with us. We will see you on the flip. We'll be back. Keep it real. Keep it locked. We'll be back in 2 minutes. We've promised you short commercial breaks this week, and we have delivered so far. We're back here for hour number 2 on Keep It Real with Testa and Neal. I'm Shea Neal, alongside with me, Parker Testa. It's been fun so far today. And Parker, we're gonna help. You got to help me make a decision here live on air. My roommate and I are going out to eat to get some food as soon as we're done recording. Taco Bell's drive-through closes here in 15 minutes, so I'm not going to be able to go to Taco Bell. So do we go to Steak and Shake or McDonald's?
I think you got to do Steak and Shake.
Okay. Steak and Shake honestly has better food. I agree with you there. But unfortunately, every time I go to Steak and Shake, I feel like getting 2 meals, and I end up eating way more food than I should. And I don't know if I want to do that at midnight.
Yeah, I understand that, but you only live
It's not like
once.
McDonald's is much better though. So
Right. You only live once. Why not, go for it all?
you're absolutely right. I'm with you there. One thing I will throw out, since we're about to do MLB starting pitching on a tier list, I'm rocking an MLB starting pitcher today, Shohei Ohtani. Parker, he's played so dang well this year. It's only a matter of time before I had to get some Ohtani gear.
Yeah, and I think that I'm not far behind you. The guy is fantastic, and I think that he is, well, obviously he's one of the MLB's best players there is right now, and the second coming of Babe Ruth. So I think he deserves, a $35 T-shirt to be worn by yours truly here in the coming weeks.
There you go. All right, we're gonna go right back to sharing the screen, Parker, and we're gonna jump right into tier list number 2 here on Tier List Tuesday, and that's gonna be MLB starting pitchers. Now we have a lot of pitchers on this list. I don't know if we're gonna get to all of them, but we're gonna try our absolute best. So Parker, I'm gonna have you name me a team, not a player. Name me a team, and we'll start there.
Milwaukee Brewers.
Ooh, I like this one. All right. The Brewers have 2 guys on this list, Corbin Burnes and Brandon Woodruff. I'm going to put them in 2 different tiers. We'll see if you agree with me. I'll start with Burnes. Burnes goes an all-star for me. Corbin Burnes has taken a huge step forward this year. I love his sinker-cutter combo. Great changeup, great slider, great curveball. 5-pitch mix, has great control. Went like 45 strikeouts to start the year without walking a guy. And he's still only like 24 years old. I mean, Corbin Burnes just gets better and better by the start. He's already an all-star caliber pitcher, and he's well on his way to superstar.
Yeah, he is. He's fantastic. Yeah, and like you said, he's taken a massive step forward this season. the last team that I think I knew Woodruff was good. I knew Burns was decent, but last thing I expected was for both of these guys to be all-star caliber players, and they've done that. Both these guys could be Cy Young finalists.
They
They're
could
that
for
good.
sure. They could for
And,
sure. Are you
yeah,
ready for what I could see you thinking this is a hot take, but I really don't think it's a hot take at this point. Are you ready?
ready?
Brandon Woodruff goes in superstar for me. Brandon Woodruff has been unbelievably good this year. I am a big fan of this dude. I don't know how I want to word that. I love watching this guy pitch because he's really, really good at it. I don't like watching this guy pitch because he dominates the Reds. I don't like that part of it. But Brandon Woodruff Parker, 7-6, a 2.26 ERA, a .88 WHIP, 152 strikeouts. In his last 2 seasons combined, his ERA sits at 2.6. You know what that tells me, Parker? That's not just an ace. That's a Cy Young candidate. And Brandon Woodruff has gone from really solid pitcher to maybe top 5 pitcher in baseball over the last year and a half. He's earned the right for me to be in superstar. Brandon Woodruff this year and last year as well has cemented himself as one of the best of the best.
He has, and he's been fantastic. And I think he will win. I think he'll win. He's not going to win NL Cy Young, but he deserves it because DeGrom's going to win NL Cy Young. But he's going to be, he will win Cy Young at some point in his career because he's that good, and he's been that good this season. He's been one of the better pitchers in baseball, and I'm really enjoying his stuff.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, the duo of Woodruff and Burns, a treat to watch whenever they're on the mound. I just wish they didn't pitch against the Reds as often as they do. So if Burns and Woodruff want to start pitching against the Cubs and the Cardinals, and then you save Hauser and Lauer for the Reds, I'm fine with that. But I have to just accept the fact that the Brewers are trying to hold off the Reds in the division, so we're going to see a lot of Woodruff and Burns down the stretch, which I'm not looking forward to.
No, if I had to play Woodruff and Burns, 20 times a year, I would be very upset. But as you should be.
What's funny is I think the Reds hit Woodruff better than they hit Burns because Woodruff throws so dang hard that occasionally the Reds accidentally hit it and it's a home run. Burns, all of Burns' pitches just move so much that it's just you can't make contact with the baseball.
Yeah, and it's killer. It really is. And so this is crazy to say this, but both these guys have been all-stars, Cy Young finalists. They're that good.
Dominant, absolutely. Next team I want to do, Parker, let's move to the American League, and let's do the Chicago White Sox. Now, I'm a little upset that Carlos Rodon isn't on this list, but that's okay. We have Lance Lynn, and we have Lucas Giolito. Now, Lucas Giolito had an all-star caliber season a year ago. This year, he hasn't been as great, and now he has 2 seasons in the bigs where he's just been kind of meh. So I'm going to put him in good. I still think he has great stuff. I still think he's a really solid pitcher, but he isn't consistent enough for me to put him in that all-star tier. Now, Lance Lynn, on the other hand, is really, really close to superstar. I'm going to put him ahead of Burns. It's not that I don't think Burns is as talented. It's just Lynn's proven it longer. Lance Lynn might end up being the highest pitcher I have in All-Star. He's really, really close to superstar. Dude's an absolute stud, and he's a rock. He never gets hurt. He always makes his starts every 5 days.
Yeah, and he's that good. I love watching Giolito. He's so much fun to watch, and he's like you said, he kind of took a step back this season, but he's still got great stuff. And Giolito is so much fun. And the White Sox have had arguably the best pitching in the American League this season.
Absolutely,
they're that good.
Rodon's not on this list, but if Rodon was on this list, I'd probably have him at the top of good because this is the first year where he's really been elite. But he's trending up. I mean, if he pitches like this for the rest of this year and into next year, I mean, Carlos Rodon's going to be an all-star tier as well.
They're a fun team. I think they're a World Series contender.
I think they're a World Series favorite, honestly.
Yeah, especially after what they did at the deadline. So this team is so much fun.
They are. They really are. I love watching the White Sox play. They're just a fantastic baseball team. So next, let's go back to the National League, and let's knock out a team that is, not great, but their future is very bright. And I'm talking about the Miami Marlins. Now, we have two Marlins on this list, Parker. We have Sandy Alcantara and we have Pablo Lopez. And both of these guys have had really solid seasons. Sandy Alcantara, for me, has disgusting stuff. He's not Giolito, but he belongs in good tier for me. Love Sandy Alcantara. I think he's the Marlins' best starter at this moment in time. I know Trevor Rogers had one heck of a year, but I think Alcantara's kind of their ace. Alcantara's a beast. Always works deep into games, doesn't give up a lot of home runs, doesn't walk a lot of guys. He's what you want in an ace, and he's very young. So I'm putting him in good. Pablo Lopez has had a really strong year this year, but he doesn't have as good of stuff as Alcantara, and he doesn't have quite as much solid seasons in the past as Alcantara. So for me, he's going to be an average, but he's towards the top of average. He's still a solid pitcher. That tells you how many good pitchers we have on this list, because Pablo Lopez is a really solid starting pitcher, and I have him in average.
Yeah, I'm going to put him in average too. I think Alcantara is arguably better than Giolito.
It's close.
He's been really good. Like you said, the Marlins are, rough to say the least right now, but they have, all the talent and all the potential to be, one of the league's best here in the few short years. Mattingly, I think, is the perfect manager to kind of guide them through this rebuilding kind of time. I think coming out on the other side of this, they're going to be a good team.
All right, we're going to go back to the American League and do the Rays, Parker. I'm going to let you take the lead on Yarborough because I'm curious where you put him.
Yarborough's tough for me.
He doesn't have great stuff, but he always gets outs.
Yeah. I'm going to put him ahead of Lopez in average.
Okay.
I understand the fact that he consistently gets outs and he keeps his ERA down. But I just think that his stuff isn't as great as some of the guys that we have ahead of him, so I have him here.
I completely agree. And let's get to the fun guy on the Rays, Tyler Glasnow. This dude, Parker, I don't think you're going to disagree with me here. I'm not going to put him ahead of Burns. I'm not going to put him ahead of Lynn, but this dude's an all-star. Tyler Glasnow is one of my favorite pitchers to watch in baseball. 6'8", throws 100 miles an hour with a disgusting curveball. He might have the best stuff in baseball. Tyler Glasnow has every potential in the world. His size, how hard he throws, how good his off speed is. Tyler Glasnow could be a Cy Young candidate for the next 10 years.
It's possible. And Glasnow's so much fun to watch. He throws a bullet of a fastball, and his breaking pitches have so much movement, and he makes it so hard for it to make contact with them. So, Glasnow stuff is so much fun to watch.
No doubt about it. National League we go. Parker, I'll let you pick the next team.
St. Louis Cardinals.
The Cardinals. Okay, so the Cardinals have two guys on this list. They have Wainwright and Flaherty. Flaherty, I like. I think he has good stuff. I think he has the makeup to be an ace. The problem is inconsistencies, not just on the field, but staying on the field. So he's going to be in good for me, but he's going to be at the end of good behind Alcantara and Giolito. I like his stuff, and I think he could easily make it to All-Star one day. He's just not there yet. Now for Wainwright's not supposed to be this good at this point in his career, but he still gets outs, and he still has a really good curveball, and he still finds a way to make it work with a cutter, with below average stuff. So I'm going to put him in average. I feel like I should put him in below average based on his age and how he only throws like 88, but he still finds a way to make it work. So he's earned my respect, and I'll put him in average.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat as you. I think Flaherty has decent stuff. He's just not very consistent. And Wainwright is older, but he can still somehow kick it very well. So I have these guys in very similar spots.
Okay. Let's move back to the American League, and let's do the Cleveland Indians. Shane Bieber, Parker, I think this dude's a superstar. I'm going to put him behind Woodruff because I think Woodruff has been more dominant like this year. But Bieber won Cy Young last year. Bieber's still one of the best. He's in superstar for me, and he's just getting started in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, he is, and Bieber's so much fun. He's a former. Did he win the Cy Young?
He did. He went like 11-2 with like a .94 ERA or whatever last year. No, I'm sorry, it was like a 1.74. It wasn't a point.
Right, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure, but Bieber is one of the top pitchers in baseball right now. So, and his stuff is killer.
It is for sure. Now this one is a little tougher. And it's Zach Plesac. Zach Plesac has some pretty good stuff, Parker, and he's had moments where he looks like a really solid starter, but he's also had moments where he's just gotten hit all over the yard. He gives up a lot of home runs. He gives up a lot of hard hit contact, but he has a ton of strikeout stuff, and he's still very young. So he is going to go right here for me. I think he has better stuff than Wainwright, and that makes me put him higher than Wainwright, but he hasn't proven it enough for me to put him ahead of Yarbrough and Lopez. I think Yarbrough and Lopez have a better resume right now, but Plesac, out of the four guys I have an average, Plesac has the best stuff. So if anyone gets out of average, I think it's Plesac.
I think so too. He needs to be a little bit more consistent. I think his ERA needs to come down a little bit, in order to move him up. But like you said, his stuff is pretty killer.
Let's move back to the National League and let's do. This is going to be a tough one. What do I want to do next? Let's do the Cubs. Zach Davies, I don't know. I think he's the great value Yarbrough, Parker. I mean, he just doesn't throw very hard. And unlike Yarbrough, I don't think he's as consistent in getting outs. So he's going to go in below average for me. I'm not huge on Zach Davies. He has his moments where he's been solid, but more times than not, I mean, every time the Reds face Zach Davies, I'm not worried about it because I'm like, this guy throws 88 and we can hit him hard. So Zach Davies is below average for me. Now, Kyle Hendricks, the professor, maybe the worst stuff in Major League Baseball. I'm not kidding. He throws like 86 with a changeup, and that's about it. But he's made it work for like 8 years, and he's a really good starting pitcher. And I got to give him credit where it's due. The professor for me is going to go at the top of good because he doesn't have the stuff that these three have, but he has the consistency that those three haven't had.
Yeah, and somehow he's continuing to do it. I don't know how, but he's performing well, and he's the only pretty solid pitcher the Cubs have, and as of right now, he's the only pretty solid player. Period. The Cubs have, and so he's been pretty consistent, like you said. He only throws like 89, 90 maybe, but his breaking stuff is off the charts.
It is. So let's move back to the American League. Parker, let's do a team that I'm really interested in moving forward, and that's the Boston Red Sox. Now, Eduardo Rodriguez, before this season, I would have put in good and not thought much about it. Now, he's had a really tough year. I still think he has the stuff to be good, and I'm still going to put him in good, but he's at the end of good for me. I still think his numbers don't reflect the talent that he has, and he's been good way more than he's been bad in his career. But I'm not as confident putting him in good as I would have been 6 months ago. Chris Sale hasn't pitched in 2 years, and it's really hard to kind of guess where he'll be. I can't put him in superstar right now because I don't think it's fair to guys like Woodruff and Bieber and DeGrom and guys like that have been dominant for the last 2 years. But I still think Chris Sale is one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball when he's healthy. So for me, he's going to go in All-Star. I'm going to put him at the end of All-Star because I think the three guys that we already have in there deserve that respect. But I still think Chris Sale's an All-Star caliber pitcher when he's on his game.
Yeah, I think so too. Chris Sale's very solid, and his stuff is always pretty consistent.
His slider's just disgusting.
It is, and I'd probably put it right now. If Sale was healthy, I'd put Sale ahead of Glasnow.
Probably
but Sale hasn't been able to stay healthy, so he's going to be in the same spot.
Okay, what are your thoughts on Erod?
Erod's tough for me. I like Erod a lot. He just hasn't had a good year, and he hasn't been consistently good. I think he has the potential to be really good if he can stay consistent.
Yeah. So you think similar spot, end of good, or would you have him in average?
I'd probably put him ahead of Flaherty, to be honest.
Okay. Okay. That's fair. So we move back to the National League now. And Parker, I'll let you pick this next one. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to the East? Do you want to go to the West, Central? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking West.
Okay.
Let's do the San Francisco Giants.
The Giants. So for the Giants on this list, we have Kevin Gausman and Johnny Cueto. This one's going to be hard for me because I really love Johnny Cueto, Parker. He's my favorite pitcher of all time. And he's had an okay year. I mean, he's actually had a pretty solid year. I think he's a little more consistent than some of the guys that we have on average. So I'm going to put him right in the middle of average, more consistent than Plesac. And I still think he has better stuff than Wainwright. So I'm going to put Cueto there. And Gausman, no doubt about it, has had an all-star caliber season, but he just hasn't been that guy throughout his career. So for me right now, I'm going to put him right behind Hendricks in good. Hendricks, the consistency for Hendricks, I think I'm going to keep him at the top of good for most of this because of the consistency aspect. Gausman, a year or two ago, would have been in below average, and now I have him at the top of good. So that tells you how good he's been since he got to San Francisco.
Yeah, I like how Gausman has played, all year. He's been pretty consistent for San Francisco, and they're the best team in the West right now, which, and it's a credit to their pitching and to what Gabe Kapler has done managing this team. But, I like how Gausman has played. Cueto, I love. That shimmy is iconic.
It's so good.
And he's, he's not as good as he was, but he's still a solid starting pitcher in this league.
No doubt about it. Back to the American League we go. Let's do the Yankees, Parker. Let's just get the Bronx boys out of the way. We have Garrett Cole and Luis Severino on this list. Severino just can't stay healthy, man. When he does stay healthy, I like him a lot. So I'm going to put him in a very similar spot as Flaherty. I think his stuff is better than Flaherty, but very similar pitchers. Guys that I think have the potential to be aces, but just can't stay on the field and can't stay consistent.
No, they can't. And Severino, he's certainly a talented pitcher for sure when he's on the field and when his stuff is working, and that's half the battle. Half the battle is keeping him on the field, and the other half is his stuff good. And it seems to be one or the other. When he's on the field, sometimes his stuff's not good, but when he's having a solid few weeks, he somehow finds a way to get hurt. So Severino I like, but he just can't stay consistent.
I agree. Garrett Cole's in superstar tier for me. I don't like the Yankees, but Garrett Cole's one of the best pitchers in the league. I'm going to put him ahead of Bieber, but here's the crazy thing, Parker. He has a better resume than Woodruff. There's no doubt about it. He's been more consistent for longer, but I'm judging this based off of like the last, year and a half since the start of last year. Woodruff's just been more dominant to me. So I'm going to put Cole behind Woodruff. I think Woodruff's earned that respect. I might, when this is all said and done, I legit might have Woodruff number 2 behind DeGrom.
Yeah, it's possible. And, Garrett Cole is fantastic. His stuff is always nasty.
It's great.
Right. And, as we're talking about him, he's going to miss tomorrow, or he's going to miss today's start. He was positive for COVID, but granted, Cole's stuff has been great. And certainly he, with the MLB cracking down on sticky substances, his spin rates took a hit, as did most guys, but his stuff is still top tier.
No doubt about it. I mean, and he's so consistent. I mean, how many games has there been in the last 4 years where you see Garrett Cole give up more than 3 runs? Maybe like 3 or 4. Garrett Cole's always going to give you 6-7 innings and 2 runs or less. That's just what he always does. And that's what an ace is all about. And like I said, I hate the Yankees. I hope they lose every single time they take the field. But I know that on days that Garrett Cole is pitching, they have a really good chance of winning because that dude's a stud.
He is. And he's so much fun to watch as well.
No doubt about it. Let's move back to the National League. And let's do a team that, let's just get them out of the way. The Mets. Jacob deGrom. We're just going to drag him right on up here and put him at the top of superstar. This is the best pitcher on planet Earth, and there's no arguing that. This guy throws 102. with a disgusting slider, with a disgusting changeup, with a two-seamer, with a curveball, with a changeup. I mean, this guy's got like 6 different pitches in his arsenal. He throws 100 plus, and he can even drop it down to like 75 on his curveball. So this is the best pitcher in baseball. He's got some of the best stuff in baseball. He's so dang consistent. And he's so good at this point where some pitchers, some aces on this list, you're worried about scoring runs against. With Jacob deGrom, you're worried about getting hits against this guy. He's that good.
Do I even need to elaborate on this?
I don't know. I mean, you can fill in your 2 cents, but I think I hit on almost everything.
I probably should, but yeah, I have no argument. I mean, the dude's just, he's
the best
awesome.
pitcher in the world.
It sucks that the Mets suck when he plays or when he pitches, but when he pitches, every 5 days, I feel like he could pitch every day and be as dominant as he is.
He could.
He's so much fun to watch. His stuff is, second to none. He's that good. He's the best pitcher in the world.
There's no doubt about it. He's the best of the best. Now, Noah Syndergaard, Parker, has the stuff to be in Superstar. No doubt about it. He looks like an ace in the making with his stuff. But he hasn't been able to stay on the field, and he's been very inconsistent when he has stayed on the field. So I'm going to do with what I did with the other guys that have been inconsistent in staying on the field, and that's Severino and Flaherty. He's going to go in good. He's going to be higher than these other 2 because I think he has the best stuff of these 3 guys, but they're all in the same boat. I mean, they have the potential to be aces. They're either hurt or they're inconsistent on the field. Syndergaard, I don't want to say he's been the biggest disappointment in Major League Baseball over the last couple of years because I don't think that's true. But every time I see Noah Syndergaard pitch, I think this guy has a chance to be a top 5 pitcher in the league, and it's just never come together the way I thought it would.
Right, and Syndergaard certainly isn't as good as he has been in previous years. He's a solid player for sure, but I just need to see more consistency from him.
I agree. Back to the American League we go, Parker. I'll let you pick this next one as the Giants just hit a grand slam off the Diamondbacks because the Diamondbacks are the worst team in the league. But I'll let you pick the next team out of the American League.
The Minnesota Twins.
The Twins. Okay. So for the Twins, I know that Jose Barrios is now a Blue Jay. But for the sake of this, we're going to pretend he's still a Twin, okay? So we have Jose Barrios here. Am I missing anybody, or is he the only Twins player we have on this list? Oh, no, I'm sorry, Kenta Maeda. Kenta Maeda was really, really good last year. But in his career, he's been slightly above average. And I don't think his stuff is as good as Erod's, so I'm going to put him at the top of average. That's where I think Kenta. I think that's a good spot for Kenta Maeda. Barrios has disgusting stuff. I'm not gonna lie there. I mean, Barrios' stuff is as good as Giolito, and I think that's where I'm gonna put him, right behind Giolito. I like Jose Barrios a lot. I know he's a little inconsistent at times, but so is Giolito. I mean, Barrios has the stuff to be a nasty starting pitcher, and I don't know if you saw his first game with the Blue Jays, Parker, but he was really, really good.
Yeah, it was. He was so much fun to watch, and I enjoy watching Barrios. Not only because he's very consistent, but his stuff is just so dominant.
His curveball moves like a slider. Not only does it move down, it moves like away from right-handed hitters too. So it's like a slurve. It's gross.
It's nasty, and Barrios is so good. And it was great to see him have that success. So he's in good tier for me also.
Where do you have Maeda? I'm just curious.
Maeda is interesting. I have a soft spot for Maeda because he played. He was a Dodger, and I enjoyed watching him pitch. I'd probably put him at top of average. If we had a spot between good and average, he'd be there. But he's the top of average for me.
I think he's got better stuff than Yarbrough, but I don't know if his stuff's as good as Erod. That's kind of my thought process for it. So let's move to the National League, Parker. We're going to do one of our favorite teams here. Do you want to get your Dodgers out of the way, or do you want to do the Reds?
Let's do the Reds.
All right. Sonny Gray and Luis Castillo. Sonny Gray is a good pitcher, a good starting pitcher. And I think this might be the biased Reds fan in me, Parker. He's been more consistent than guys like Giolito and Gausman, and I don't. And his stuff's better than Hendricks. I'm going to put him behind Hendricks because I think Hendricks' consistency wins again. I think Sonny's got better stuff, but Hendricks wins with consistency. So I'm going to put Sonny there, right behind Hendricks and Good. Castillo, I have such a love-hate relationship with Luis Castillo. I want to put Luis Castillo right here, Parker, and I think he's capable of that. I really, really do. But he has stretches where he's just not as good as he should be. So where I'm going to put Luis Castillo is at the end of All-Star. I think he's an All-Star caliber pitcher, and that's great. He's definitely, without a doubt, the ace of the Reds. But it's frustrating because I feel like he could be a top 6 or 7 pitcher in baseball if he was just a little bit more consistent. I really want to put him in Superstar, and I think he's capable of doing it.
Yeah, I'm with you on Castillo. I think he's so much fun to watch when his stuff is on. I think he's
best changeup, and I will say, Reds fan or not, just as a baseball fan, best changeup in baseball, not a doubt.
Right, and he's when he's on, he's really on, but when he's not, he's not, and that's an issue. He's in this similar spot for me, but he has the chance to be, at the top of this, maybe even a superstar.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Sonny Gray?
I like Sonny Gray. I think if he could be a bit more consistent, I think I'd have him higher, but he'd be in a similar spot.
Yeah, he's really – I feel like one more really good year from Sonny Gray, I'd put him at the end of All-Star. It's really close. It's just a lot of players just don't play well for the Yankees, for whatever reason, but I think his Yankees years are what's keeping him out of All-Star for me. He was an All-Star in Oakland. He's been an All-Star in Cincinnati, but he just had such a rough stretch in New York that I think it keeps him in good.
Yeah, I think so too, and he's a solid player for sure. I just think he needs to be a bit more consistent in Cincinnati. Like you said, I like the way he is. I like the way he's played with the Reds to this point. He just needs to be a bit more consistent.
Let's do the American. Of course, we're going to the American League. Let's do the Oakland A's. Bassett and Manaea. This one's tough. Manaea's without a doubt got better stuff. Manaea throws 95, like almost sidearm as a lefty. Gross slider, gross curveball, gross changeup. I mean, I'm a sucker, Parker, for lefties that throw hard with gross off speed. That's why I like Chris Sale. That's why I like Sean Manaea. So I like Manaea a lot, and I think he's a solid pitcher, but he's a little inconsistent for me. So he's going to go right here behind Alcantara. He stays on the field enough for me to put him ahead of these three, but I mean, he's just not as consistent as guys like Alcantara and Sonny Gray and Kyle Hendricks and stuff like that. So I think that's a good spot for Manaea. Now, Bassett's not supposed to be as good as he is, but he's really, really good. And he's been really good for, 2-3 years now. So I'm going to put him in a similar spot that I have Gausman. I'm going to put Gausman ahead of him because Gausman has better stuff. But Bassett and Gausman are both trending up.
Yeah, and I like the way Manaea's playing, and he's a solid pitcher for sure, and I just want to see him be more consistent with it. He's been great for Bob Melvin. I just want to see a bit more from him.
Yeah, I agree. So let's move on. Let's do your Dodgers. Let's get your Dodgers over with. Kershaw and Buehler. I'll let you take the lead on this one. I think I know where I want to put these guys, but I'll let you take the lead.
So I'm going to do Buehler first. I think Buehler's a superstar. I do. People may not, but I think he's a superstar, and that's not me being biased. I just think that, the tight pants that he wears is, squeezing all the fastball velocity out of him. It's fantastic to see him how dominant he is. I watched a game last year where he went the complete game. He threw 15 strikeouts and allowed just 2 hits. I mean, that's stuff that's great stuff. That's unmatched. That's unmatched stuff.
Yeah.
So I think he's a superstar. Kershaw, I think this one's tough for me. I'm going to put at the top of good. I think he has very similar stuff to guys like I actually put him in between Sonny and Hendricks. I think Hendricks has better stuff than Kershaw, but I think still Kershaw can still he's still a solid pitcher for sure.
Okay. I was probably going to put Kershaw in a pretty similar spot. I'm fine with Bueller and Superstar. I think he has superstar caliber stuff. I was going to put him right here behind Burns. I don't know. Maybe I would have put him ahead of Burns, but
That's fair.
He was
I
going to be at the
understand.
top of All-Star for me. But I'm fine with this. This is fine.
I think Burns has had the better year.
Yeah, I probably would have put him ahead of Burns. I probably would have put him second in All-Star behind Lynn. And I think it's just because Lynn's had a longer career.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, let's go back to the American League. Let's do let's get Baltimore over with because I want to talk about John Means. Felix Hernandez, first of all. I love King Felix. He was so fun to watch in his prime in Seattle, but I'm not going to lie to you, Parker. This is a guy that throws 88, and his changeup isn't as good as it was when he was in Seattle, and there's no denying that. This guy's past his prime. If he wasn't pitching for the Orioles, he wouldn't be in the league. So he's below average for me. And I'm not going to disrespect the legend of the game and put him in trash. So he's going to go in below average. Now, when it comes to John Means is I know the Orioles stink, but John Means is a stud. John Means is a gamer. And for me, he's going to go right in between Gausman and Bassett. I love John Means, and he's had one heck of a year.
Yeah, he has. And John Means is so much fun to watch. And he's playing very well right now. And he's the ace, if you will, of a bad Orioles team. But he certainly has some great stuff. As far as King Felix, I love King Felix. He's had a Hall of Fame career, no doubt about it. But as of right now, he just isn't the player he was.
No, not at all. Back to the National League we go, and we're gonna do the San Diego Padres with Blake Snell and Yu Darvish. Yu Darvish, for me, I'm gonna put him right here, ahead of Sale and ahead of Castillo and All-Star. I still think he's an All-Star caliber pitcher, and I'll put him ahead of these two guys because he's more consistent than Castillo. And he's been on the field the last 2 years, unlike Sale. So even though I'd take Glasnow, I'd take Burns, and I'd take Lynn over Yu Darvish, but I have to give Yu Darvish the credit he deserves. He's a solid pitcher, and he's a fringe all-star for sure. When it comes to Blake Snell should be in a very similar spot, but he's just not consistent. And because of that, he's going to go in a very similar spot to Giolito. I'm going to put Giolito ahead of him. And I'll actually put Barrios ahead of him as well because I think Barrios has been more consistent as well. But Blake Snell, still a really good pitcher. Some of the best stuff in the league. His curveball is great. He throws 96. But he's just, there's some days where Blake Snell looks like he's going to throw a no-hitter, and there's other nights where Blake Snell only goes 3 innings and gives up 6 runs. So I just never know what I'm going to get out of Blake Snell.
Yeah. And it's Snell, for me, like you said, is very inconsistent, and I don't want to, put him higher than where he is right there. I think that's a good spot for him. I would argue that Alcantara is better than him right now, but I can see him putting him in that spot. Darvish has great stuff. I can't disagree with that. He's been very good for Jay Stingler, and he's in this spot for me as well.
Sounds good. Let's do. Who do we want to do next? Let's do the Texas Rangers because I think this is going to be the first guy I put in trash. Mike Fultonavich. Mike Fultonavich was so good with the Braves in 2018. And then he just fell off a cliff. And it's hard to watch him pitch now, Parker, because he just gets shelled every single time he pitches. And he just looks like a dude that's not having fun playing baseball right now. So I don't mean to pile on the dude's frustrations, but he's just not a good pitcher at this point in his career. Kyle Gibson's had a really strong year. He's had an average career, but he's had a really strong season. But I'm not going to overreact to one solid season. It's kind of like Maeda. I'll put him ahead of Maeda because I think he's better right now, but it's very similar to Maeda where he had one really, really good year that's kind of highlighting an average career.
Yeah, and both these guys, the Rangers are not a good team, but they've had some pretty consistent pitching. So I don't know. Yeah, both these guys are in similar spots. I think the Rangers, they're not a good team, but they're kind of like the Marlins. I think they have a potential to be a good team down the road.
They do. And I mean, they're already off to a strong start. I know they traded Joey Gallo, but they got this guy named Adolis Garcia. Maybe you've heard of him. He's probably the runaway favorite for Rookie of the Year in the American League. They have him. He's great. They have also Sam Huff, one of the top catching prospects in baseball. And they just took a guy with the second overall pick. Maybe you've heard of him as well. I thought he was the best pitcher in college baseball. He goes by the name of Jack Leiter. Ever heard of him?
I don't know, maybe.
Only a guy that threw a no-hitter with 16 strikeouts against the number 6 team in the country.
Oh, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Didn't he go to some school in Tennessee?
Yeah, I think so. Some random D3 or whatever.
Oh. Yeah. Starts with a V, I think.
Yeah, it was some weird name like Vandersloot or something like that.
Oh, who knows?
Probably a bust, but, I'm rooting for the kid. No, I'm just kidding. Jack Leiter is going to be an absolute beast.
If this doesn't get us canceled, nothing will.
No, absolutely not. But you're absolutely right. The Rangers have a very bright future, and I mean, like we said, 5 years from now, opening day in Texas, Jack Leiter is going to be their opening day starter. He's going to be an absolute stud. I have zero doubt about that. And he's going to be throwing to Raider Gang alum Connor Piotto. So there you go.
Yeah, and both these guys are fantastic players. So, so the Rangers certainly have a heck of a future.
They do. Let's do the Colorado Rockies next, Parker. Now, Antonio Senzatella, I don't know. He's meh. I can't put him over guys like Wainwright and Cueto, so he's going to be at the top of below average for me. I think he's got better stuff than Davies. And then Marquez, I like Marquez. Marquez has got a great sinker. He's got great curveball. We're getting tough on where I put guys here. I think he's more consistent than Minaya, and I think he has better stuff than Alcantara. And I'll say he's more consistent than Snell as well. So I'll put him right here behind Barrios.
Yeah, I think he's in a similar spot here for me. His stuff is okay at times. There are times when he's really good, but there are times when he struggles.
And I think part of that's pitching at Coors, which isn't all his fault, but he's by far the best pitcher the Rockies have had in like 8 or 9 years.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
So let's move back to the AL. Let's do the Houston Astros. We have Justin Verlander and we have Zach Greinke. Now Verlander for me, I would be totally okay if you put him in Superstar. I'm going to put him in All-Star, and I'm going to put him right next to Chris Sale because it's another guy that hasn't pitched in a bit. I can't put him over guys like Burns and Lynn right now the way they're pitching. But I know I'm a Reds fan, but I'm not an idiot. The resumes of Chris Sale and Justin Verlander are better than Luis Castillo, and I know that. So Justin Verlander goes right next to Chris Sale for me. Zach Greinke still gets outs and still is a high level pitcher. But he's very similar to guys like Kershaw and Hendricks for me. So I'm going to put him right there in that similar boat.
Yeah. I'm with you. Verlander's stuff is still good. Even though he's an older guy, he's still, his stuff is still fantastic. Greinke's similar in that, he still is pretty consistent with his stuff, but he just hasn't. His velo has dropped off a bit here in the last few years.
Yeah, it has. Back to the National League we go. Let's do the Nationals, Parker. Scherzer and Strasburg. Strasburg is so tough. He just doesn't stay healthy, but he's a World Series MVP. I'm going to do something here, Parker, that you might not agree with. He's going to be my best pitcher in good. I know Hendricks is more consistent, and I know that Strasburg doesn't stay on the field a lot, but when he does, he's so good. I want to put him in All-Star, but he just isn't on the field enough for me to put him there. Scherzer is an absolute stud. And I know I said earlier I might put Woodruff second to DeGrom, but I'm not going to disrespect Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer is an absolute baller, first ballot Hall of Famer. The way he's pitched this year, I mean, I think the 3 best pitchers in baseball right now, in order, DeGrom, Scherzer, Woodruff.
I think so too. As far as Strasburg goes, I completely agree with you. He just hasn't been healthy enough to put him any higher than where he's at. And Scherzer, we know how good Scherzer is. He's the number 2 to DeGrom in this league.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's Scherzer's just so dang good. I'm excited to watch his Dodgers debut tomorrow night. So that'll be fun to watch for sure. Who are the Dodgers playing? I didn't look that up.
Oh, I should know this. Let's see. They are playing the Houston Astros.
Oh, that'll be a really good game.
So as of right now, the pitching matchup is Scherzer and Odorizzi.
Okay. Odorizzi isn't anything spectacular, but he's on a pretty good streak, I think. His last 3 or 4 starts, he's only given up a handful of runs. So he's been pretty good the last month or so. So that'll be a good game.
It should be. I'm excited to see what Scherzer does.
No doubt. Let's move back to the American League then. Let's do the... You haven't picked one in a minute, Parker. Why don't you pick one?
Let's do the Seattle Mariners.
The Mariners. Okay, we got Marco Gonzalez and James Paxton. Paxton is another one of these guys that has stuff. He's not as good as he was a few years ago, but he's still solid. He just doesn't stay healthy. I'm going to put him in a similar boat as Erod. I think Erod's got better stuff at this point, but I'm going to put Paxton at the end of good. Marco Gonzalez gets outs, but his stuff isn't spectacular. He's very similar to Kyle Gibson and Ryan Yarbrough for me, so he's going to be at the top of average for me.
Yeah, I have both these guys in a similar spot. I like Paxton's stuff. He's just not very consistent with it. Both these guys are great players. I probably have them, in similar spots. The Mariners have great pitching. Kikuchi's been unbelievable.
If Kikuchi was on this list, he'd be trending towards the top of good at this point.
Right, and but both these guys are certainly talented, but just not as consistent as I'd like them to be.
Yeah. Let's do the Phillies, Parker. Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. Excuse me. Zach Wheeler's just gotten better and better with age. He's going to go at the end of All-Star for me. I think he's earned that right to be in the All-Star tier. Aaron Nola, it looked like he was going to be in the All-Star tier a couple of years ago when he came third for the Cy Young. He's taken a little bit of a step back, but I still think he's really solid. I'm going to probably put him right behind Sonny Gray.
Yeah, I think Nola's been pretty solid for the Phillies, in his tenure there. Wheeler is so much fun. And he's getting better and better as we go along, like you said. So I'd have Wheeler in at the end of All-Star. As far as Nola goes, I think he's more consistent than Sonny, but I think Sonny's the better all-around pitcher. So I'm going to probably put him in the same spot.
That's fair. We just did a National League team, so we're going back to the AL. Let's do Toronto. Nate Pearson is a very interesting case because he hasn't pitched a lot in the majors, Parker, but he throws 102, disgusting changeup, great slider. He just looks like, he's got DeGrom type stuff. He looks like he's going to eventually be an all-star. But as of right now, he just hasn't pitched a ton. I'm going to put him at the end of average. I think he already has better stuff than the 3 guys in below average, but I can't put him over guys like Wainwright and Cueto that have had really solid careers because he's only pitched 12 games at the majors.
Yeah, I'm in a similar spot with him. He certainly, the ceiling is through the roof for him. And he has great stuff. I'm curious your thoughts on Ryu. For me, Ryu, I think this is tough. I think he has better stuff than Kershaw, but I think Kershaw's more consistent. I'll probably put him in between Greinke and Kershaw.
Okay. I was going to put him in between Greinke and Gray, so we're in a similar spot. I think Ryu has been really consistent about putting up good numbers, getting outs, and being a solid pitcher for a major league team. I don't know if I'd consider Hyunjin Ryu an ace, but he's a really solid pitcher. There's no doubt about that.
Yes.
Let's do the Pirates. Let's get this over with. Mitch Keller. I don't freaking know. He was their top pitching prospect. They traded Garrett Cole because they had this kid, and he has like a 6 ERA in the majors. Now he has good stuff. He throws like 95. He has a decent changeup. He has a good slider, but he just has not translated well. So I'm gonna have him in below average. I'll put him ahead of Davies and Felix Hernandez because of his stuff, but he's gonna be behind Senzatella just because I think I don't know. Mitch Keller just has not been good so far in his major league career, and I'm not just saying that to bash the Pirates. Now Chad Kuhl's actually got a pretty decent sinker, and I'd probably put him at the top of below average. I think he's better than Senzatella and Keller. I think Keller has a chance to be the best arm on the Pirates down the road, but right now I think Kuhl's the better pitcher.
Yeah, I think so too. We both know how bad the Pirates are. Everybody knows how bad the Pirates are. Keller's an interesting case. He had all the hype in the world. He just has, he's just been pretty disappointing. Chad Cole's different to me. I think I don't know, man. I think he's solid when he tries to be, but I don't think the Pirates are trying to be good. So he's both these guys are in below average for me also.
All right. Well, let's do for the American League. Let's do the LA Angels. Dylan Bundy's really hard because Dylan Bundy's had really solid years, and Dylan Bundy's had years where he's just not that great. So I'm gonna put him. He's definitely ahead of Pearson. But I don't think I can put him any higher because I mean guys like Wainwright and Cueto are just doing it better longer, and so I think Bundy ends up here. Quintana's supposed to be better than he is, man. I don't know. Quintana, that trade with the Cubs ended up being so bad for Chicago, and then Quintana just hasn't been that good with the Angels. This might be a hot take, but I'm going to put Quintana at the top of below average. He just doesn't look like a good pitcher anymore.
No, he doesn't. And this is tough for me. I might put him at the bottom of average personally, but he's not the pitcher he was. Bundy's interesting. He's better than Pearson, and you could argue that he's better than Wainwright, but
He's got better stuff for sure, but Wainwright's just consistent. Bundy gets shelled sometimes. I don't know if I've ever seen Adam Wainwright just get his butt kicked.
Right, and Wainwright's a case where he's older, but he still has better. He is more consistent. He's still pitching, consistent 3-ish ERA. Mm-hmm. So I have Bundy in the same spot.
All right. Well, let's do the Atlanta Braves. Max Fried and Mike Soroka. Soroka was Rookie of the Year and then tore his Achilles and hasn't made it back since. And that's tough to rank him because of that. I'll try to rank it based off of his rookie season. I thought he was really solid. I really did. I don't know where I'll put him. Probably somewhere around here. I think guys like Giolito and Barrios and all these guys have better resumes than him. It's hard to rank him based on 1 year. But there's no doubt about it. He was an all-star. He was Rookie of the Year with an ERA below 3. He was a really good pitcher in his rookie season. And he's definitely a solid starter. Max Fried, on the other hand, Max Fried has disgusting stuff. He throws 93 with movement, great changeup, great slider, great curveball. I love watching Max Fried pitch. I don't know. He has about the same consistency as Snell, and they have pretty similar stuff. I'll probably put him there.
Yeah, I'm with you. Max Fried has solid stuff. I probably put him, I think he's more consistent than Snell, so I probably put him ahead of Snell. As far as Soroka goes, it's really tough to evaluate him, like you said. But he's had, when he's on or when he's healthy, his stuff is nasty.
It's really good, and he's only like 22 years old. Parker, they called him up when he was 21, I think, and he was, an ERA of 2.8 as a rookie.
Yeah, he has great stuff for sure.
We got 3 more teams to do here, and that's perfect timing because we have about 6 more minutes of the show left. So, Tigers. Matthew Boyd and Spencer Turnbull. Spencer Turnbull's better than a lot of people think he is, Parker. He's solid. He's going to go right here for me. And that's hard for me to do because Cueto is my favorite pitcher of all time. But Turnbull's got better stuff. Turnbull throws 95 with a sinker, good slider, good curveball. He's a solid pitcher, and right now I think he's got better stuff than Johnny Cueto, and he's pretty consistent with that stuff too. Matthew Boyd, I like Matthew Boyd a lot. He's going to be probably the highest ranked lefty I have in good. Oh, that's a lie because Kershaw and Ryu are in here, but he's going to be higher than all of these guys. He's higher than Marquez. He's higher than Soroka. He's probably going to go here. It's hard for me to put guys over Barrios because Barrios just has such nasty stuff.
He does. I probably put Boyd in the same spot. Turnbull's interesting. I think he's better than guys like I think I probably put him ahead of Yarborough, but behind Maeda. I like the way Turnbull. I like his how he pitches. His stuff is it's not the most consistent, but when it's on, it's on.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The Arizona Diamondbacks, Madison Bumgarner. What do you want to do with Mad Bum, Parker? I don't know where I want to go with this.
I don't either.
I'm thinking like here, maybe?
Yeah.
I feel like Yarborough puts up better numbers, though. I don't know.
I think where you have him right now is probably a great spot for him.
Okay. Mad Bum still is a solid pitcher, but he's not what he was. And I mean, his stuff isn't as good as it was. That's pretty obvious. He's inconsistent because his stuff isn't as good as what it was. Zach Gallen can't stay healthy, but Zach Gallen is really, really good. We went to a game this year, Parker, at Great American Ballpark where Zach Gallen was pitching. Dude's disgusting. Dude's really, really good. And he didn't even have his best stuff the night we went. I still think he went like 6 innings and gave up 2 runs. He's really good. So Zach Gallen for me is definitely going in good tier. Let me decide where I want him in good tier. I think Syndergaard's got better stuff, but he's on the field more than Severino, so I'll put him here.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's certainly a talented player for sure. Gallen is real consistent with it. And he's one of the more consistent pitchers that Arizona has. As far as Mad Bum goes, he was hot early in the year, but has fallen back to earth quite a bit.
Yeah, he has. The final team we're going to do today, Parker, is the Kansas City Royals. Brad Keller. Keller throws like 97 with a good slider. He's supposed to be better than he is, but he's just not all that great. So for me, I don't know. He's probably going to go. I don't want to put him below Pearson, but I don't know. I haven't been blown away with Brad Keller. I expect more from a guy with that kind of stuff. He's got good stuff, and he just hasn't been able to make it work, I think. The Diamondbacks just gave up another bomb. And then Danny Duffy. I don't know. Probably a pretty similar spot to Marco Gonzalez.
Yeah, I'm in a similar spot with Duffy. Both these guys are okay. I think Duffy certainly is the better of the two, though. He is more consistent.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Keller has great stuff, but he's never been able to figure it out. Ooh, that's an interesting signing here to end the show. Semi Ojeleye signs a 1-year contract with the Milwaukee Bucks. I like that move for the defending champs. Semi Ojeleye is a great athlete. He can shoot the ball. He's a great defender. I think that's a good fit to replace PJ Tucker.
I do too.
All right. Well, we had a blast today. That worked out perfectly. Those tier lists took us right up to 2 hours. So that worked out well. But we had a blast. That starting pitcher tier list was really fun. It was about as fun as I thought it would be. I'm glad that we were able to sneak Luis Castillo an all-star because I was worried with all the talented arms we were going to have to put him in good. But, it tells you how insanely talented Major League Baseball is when you have guys like German Marquez, Clayton Kershaw, Zach Greinke, Sandy Alcantara, guys like that in B tier. It's insane. So that was a blast. NBA Centers was a blast. And NBA free agency was a lot of fun today too. Lonzo's a Bull. Devontae Graham's a Pelican. Jared Allen gets $100 million to stay with the Cavs, and now Semi Ojeleye going to the Bucks. I mean, a lot of movement in the NBA today. Kyle Lowry's going to the Miami Heat. A lot of things that happened today, and it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, and we're gonna have a lot of fun this week. Looking forward to the rest of the week. I'm sure the people that don't enjoy us on the air are excited that where there's only a week and a half left of the show. But
of this show, I'll be back. You can't get rid of me that easy.
So will I. So we may be, this show may be nearing its end, but we are not going anywhere. So get used to us. But today was a blast. Lots of NBA movement today, and MLB is just as fun as I thought it would be.
No doubt about it. We had, like I said, we had a ton of fun. No show Friday if you're just not joining us. We're going to take flight, and I just don't have enough time to edit everything and maintain everything. Parker's coming in early in the morning to get ready for take flight. I'm going to a Reds game on Thursday night. We just don't really have a time to record and edit everything, so we're just not going to do the show. But Parker, they won't know this at home, but enjoy it because we're done recording the show at the same time that we normally start recording the show most nights.
Yeah, and I'm honestly surprised we're done at the time we are because
I'm about to go get some ticket shake, my guy.
Little behind the scenes for you all. We spend typically an hour before and after each show talking about the most random things you can think of.
I'd say more times than not, we aren't done recording this show until between 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, and that is typical.
Right now it's midnight. It just hit midnight, and we're done. So
right, and that's early for us, believe it or not. So appreciate you all, of course, for sticking around with us. And this has been a lot of fun, and it's not over. So we still have a week. We still have a week and a half to either enlighten you with our thoughts or annoy the heck out of you, whatever it is.
Probably the latter.
Probably.
But yeah, no, it was a ton of fun. Like Parker said, we have a week and a half left to kick it. We'll see you tomorrow from 1 to 3. Right here on WWSU 106.9. But Parker, we got about 2 minutes before Pat comes into my office and starts wringing my neck. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, it's been a really good week. The last 2 weeks have been spectacular. I think quite possibly our best.
We're ending on a good note, man.
Quite possibly our best 2 week stretch of the summer. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're ending on a good note for sure. I think we started off really strong. We had a kind of a lull period in the middle where we were kind of getting used to stuff. We were kind of getting burnt out with stuff. And now I think we're really ending on a strong note. So I'm excited to finish up college football. The conference previews have been a blast. And I'm really, really excited to do a mock fantasy football draft because I know we have a lot of people that are huge football fans, and I am as well. And I mean, as long as I walk away with Josh Allen and DK Metcalf, I don't care what else happens. So yeah.
That's going to be a lot of fun. It might be our best show we've had.
It might be. It's very possible. But for Parker Testa back in Noblesville, we thank you so much for hanging out with us here on WWSU 106.9 or our YouTube channel, however you hung out with us. Thank you. We have now officially 7 more shows this summer, but we're going to end it on a good note. So thank you for hanging out with us. For Parker back in Noblesville, I'm Shea Neal saying so long. Keep it real. We'll see you tomorrow.